Okay, we've got a main idea. Let's read the passage. The following text is adapted from Edgar Allan Poe's story, Landor's Cottage. During a pedestrian trip last summer through one or two of the river counties of New York, I found myself, as the day declined, somewhat embarrassed about the road I was pursuing. The land undulated very remarkably, and my path for the last hour had wound about and about so confusedly in its effort to keep in the valleys that I no longer knew what direction lay the sweet village of blank, where I had determined to stop for the night. So what's the main idea here? The main character, the narrator, got lost in the mountains north of New York, right? Somewhere probably in the Catskills or something like that. So, A, the narrator remembers a trip he took and admits to getting lost. This is last summer, so he's remembering it, and he gets lost, right? He couldn't get back to where he knows. This is true. Let's hold on to it. B, the narrator recalls fond memories. Well, he's getting lost. That's not too fond. Not the answer. The narrator describes what he saw during a long trip. No, he's not really describing what he saw other than the land is undulating. That's not it. The narrator explains the difficulties he encountered on a trip and how he overcame them. Well, that's a dead giveaway. It's wrong. Nowhere does it say he actually overcame them and found his way here. A is the answer. He remembered a trip and he admits getting lost. Okay, another main idea question. Let's read the text. In 1934, physicist Eugene Wigner posited the existence of crystal consisting entirely of electrons in a honeycomb-like structure. Okay? The so-called Wigner crystal remained largely conjecture, however, until Feng Wang Colleges announced in 2021 they had captured an image of one. So he posited the existence of a crystal that looked like a honeycomb. So I assume that's something like this with my terrible drawing of honeycombs. Right? There's probably another one going up like that, up like that, and up like that, and down, and so on. Right? So they found one in 2021, and the researchers trapped electrons between two semiconductors and then cooled the apparatus, causing the electrons to settle into a crystalline structure. By inserting an ultra-thin sheet of graphene above the crystal, the researchers obtained an impression, the first visual confirmation of the Wigner crystal. So what's the main idea here? There was, since the 1930s, this was all theory. They theorized this honeycomb crystal, and then finally, 90 years later, they found or were able to make an example of it. So, researchers have obtained the most definitive evidence to date of the existence of the Wigner crystal. That's true, right? In fact, it is the most definitive because, in fact, it's the only evidence of an actual Wigner crystal. So that's extreme, but that might well or probably is appropriate in this case. Okay, so let's keep going. We'll hold on to that answer. Researchers have identified an innovative new method for working with unusual. No, it's not. This is not a general statement about unusual crystalline structures, and the focus is not on the method. That's wrong. Okay. Graphene is the most important of the components required to capture an image of Wigner crystal. Well, that might be, but that's really not the main idea of the text. Graphene's not the focus. It's too narrow to be the main idea. It's just one of the evidence or details of the main text. Most important is extreme. It actually doesn't say it's the most important. So that's clearly wrong as well. D, it's difficult to acquire an image of a Wigner crystal because the crystal's honeycomb structure. I have no idea if it's difficult to get. Well, it's clearly difficult to find it. Took almost 90 years, but because of the honeycomb structure, that's just not clearly stated in the text at all. A is the right answer. Researchers have found the most definitive evidence to date of the existence of the Wigner crystal. Sometimes that extreme language is justified. This is the only evidence, therefore it is definitely the most definitive evidence. 7 is A. Okay, we've got a main idea question. Let's read the text. Philadelphia's Black Pearl Chamber Orchestra, founded by Jerry Lynn Johnson, performs classical music, from well-known compositions by Beethoven to contemporary works by Jesse Montgomery. For the orchestra's I Conduct program, Johnson invites community members to learn some basic elements of conducting and then experience conducting the Black Pearl Orchestra themselves. Okay, that's kind of cool. So this person found the orchestra in Philadelphia. They do all kinds of classical music, and they have this I Conduct program where people from the community can actually come practice conducting. So A, the Black Pearl Orchestra performs music from all over the world. Didn't say that. Nothing said all over there. It said Beethoven to Jesse Montgomery. Okay. B, Johnson founded the Black Pearl Orchestra. That part is true, right? And in order to perform classical music by contemporary artists. Well, it's not just that artist, right? That's too narrow. It's also Beethoven. So this is not right either. C, the Black Pearl Orchestra gives community members the chance to both listen to and participate in classical music performance. Yes. It does do that. I'm going to hold on to that one. Okay. Let's check D. Johnson has community members conduct an orchestra to demonstrate how difficult. The idea is not to demonstrate how difficult the task is. The idea is to give them chance to learn some new things, right? It's to learn, not to show difficulty and, destroy their hopes of becoming a conductor or whatever. C is the right answer. It's an orchestra that gives community members the chance to listen and even participate in conducting in the performance. C. Okay, another main idea question. In West Africa, Jollies have been traditionally keepers of information about family histories and records of important events. They have often served as teachers and advisors too. New technologies may have changed some aspects of the role today, but Jollies continue to be valued for knowing and protecting their people's stories. Okay, so Jollies were kind of like the teachers, the wise men, the keepers of information, and although they're new technology that could probably do a lot of that, they still are valued today. So even though there have been some changes in their role, Jollies continue to preserve their community histories. Yes, there's a contrast there. Even though technology has changed, they still are valued for protecting people's stories, that is, communities' histories. So the technology changed. Does that necessarily imply changes in the role? So this part's correct, this part's correct. Does that necessarily imply changes in the role? It does say that. Technologies have changed some aspects of the role. So yes, I take away the question mark. That's definitely in there. A is going to be the answer. But let's just run through B, C, and D. Although Jollies have many roles, many of them like teaching best. Best? That's too extreme. Jollies have been entertaining people within their communities for centuries. Entertaining? That's not what they do. That's not what the text said. That's wrong. D, technology can now do some of the things Jollies used to be responsible for. Okay, true, but too narrow. Not the main idea. Not main idea. Right? Too narrow. The correct answer is A. Okay, we've got another main idea question. Let's read about. To dye wool, Navajo Dine weaver Lily Taylor uses plants and vegetables from Arizona, okay, where she lives. For example, she achieved the deep reds and browns featured in her 2003 rug In the Path of the Four Seasons by using Arizona dock roots, drying and grinding them before mixing the powder with water to create a dye bath. To intensify the appearance of certain colors, Taylor also sometimes mixes in clay obtained from nearby soil. So what's this about? This is about a particular woman who uses natural dyes and gets these deep reds and browns and colors by mixing powder, mixing clay, mixing her own colored dyes to intensify the color. So where's the answer that reflects that? Reds and browns are not commonly featured in most of Taylor's rugs. No, she had reds and browns in hers. That can't be right. Taylor draws on local resources in the approach she uses to dye wool. Well, that's definitely true. She used Arizona dock roots, and she sometimes mixes clay from nearby soil. So this looks pretty good. We're going to hold on to that one. Taylor finds it difficult to locate Arizona. We have no idea how easy or hard is it for her to find the dock roots. D, in the Path of the Four Seasons, that's the wool she created, is widely acclaimed for its many colors. And no, we don't know anything about the popularity, the success of this particular wool dye or rug or whatever it is. Again, those ideas are usually wrong. Successful, growing, popular. B is the right answer. She draws on local resources. That is definitely supported by evidence in the text.